Hi everybody. Yeah, this time I've done a little change of scenery. Instead of the living room, I'm actually going to do it now in the basement, my next film review. Because, well, for one thing, it's my voice actually reverberates a lot better down here. Not to mention outside a neighbor's mowing, so I don't want the, but of course there's a humidifier over there making noise, but hopefully that won't deter the video too much. So for my new review here, I'm going to be talking about a movie that's a personal favorite of mine and is also a movie I watched very recently. So because, well, it's a racing film and Gran Turismo is coming out and actually I'm going to see it tonight, so hopefully it's going to be really good. So I decided to watch Speed Racer. Speed Racer is a action-adventure sports drama, somewhat of a comedy, that came out in 2008, directed by the Wachowskis, best known for the Matrix trilogy. Speed Racer is based off the animated series of the same name, which I happen to have here. Here it is. This is the animated series of Speed Racer. Basically, the animated series came out back in the 1960s, and it was a fairly successful series that actually ran pretty well. I think that ended up with, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, 52 episodes on this Blu-ray here. Before I go any further, I might as well take a peek at it. I'm not reviewing the animated series, but I'm talking about the movie. But since I have the animated series here, I might as well go ahead and talk about it. Of course, Speed Racer obviously originated in Japan, I believe, and it crossed over here to the States, where they had to redub the voice actors and whatnot. But it's pretty amazing, though, that they managed to confine the entire series onto 5 discs, I believe. Yeah. This release is by Funimation, I believe. So the episodes look really good on Blu-ray. The audio is kind of, oh yeah, it's in 2.0 mono, Dolby True HD, which is nice. Japanese as well. The only downside about the Blu-ray set here for Speed Racer is that it does not include any bonus features. Yeah, it's kind of disappointing, but still, it's nice that if anybody owned the original Lionsgate DVD releases of Speed Racer, which I think they did have extras on them, but those releases are kind of hard to get a hold of. But the Blu-ray obviously is the way to go if you want to watch Speed Racer the way it should be. But overall, it's not a bad series. Yeah, 1967. I think that's when the show showed up for the first time. Anyway, the movie, apparently, the film had been in development hell back as far back as 1992. They've been trying to do a live-action Speed Racer film for 16 years up until the film's actual release in 2008. So many filmmakers, many writers have come and gone, but it wasn't until 2006 when producer Joel Silver met up with Andy and Larry Wachowski. Well, back then when they were brothers. They're not brothers anymore, they're now sisters. But he met up with them, and it was around that time, yeah, well, the Wachowskis were hoping to take a break from filmmaking because they had pushed themselves pretty hard making the two Matrix sequels, Reloaded and Revolutions, shooting them back to back. And in 2006, they just came off of making V for Vendetta. Well, they wrote it, they didn't direct it, though. And so they were pretty much approached by Joel Silver to work on the Speed Racer movie, which they figured, well, they loved Speed Racer growing up as a kid, so why not actually jump on and try to adapt it the best way they could. And of course, the movie itself, so basically the plot of the film is Speed Racer, played in the film by Emile Hirsch, is a up-and-coming race car driver who's literally really good at what he does. And of course, comes from a family that is known for building vehicles. His father, Pop's Racer, is basically a mechanic, and he's really good at his job. Pop's played by John Goodman. And there's his mother, Susan Sarandon. And of course, Speed's girlfriend, Trixie, played by Christina Ricci, who doesn't seem to appear on the cover here anywhere. And of course, his older brother, Rex, who unfortunately died trying to, because apparently he had been schemed into, folding races. Apparently, he uncovered a corruption within the the people that have been funding the races, or controlling them, and he decided to fight against the system. Well, Speed is the best of the best, and he ultimately, after winning a successful race, he comes across basically a corporate head named Royalton, played in the film by actor Roger Allam, I think. Well, his name's not on the back here, which is kind of funny because he was one of the lead actors in the film. And unfortunately, Speed learns that he learns from his father that people like Royalton, are going to use him and take control of him, and he doesn't want that. But because he knows trade secrets now that Royalton kind of exposed to him, now Royalton makes it his grand job to make sure that Speed fails no matter what. And of course, Speed will pretty much, and of course his family gets hurt, his father's business gets ruined, and Speed basically goes on the warpath to make sure that, hey, you hurt my family, I'm going to hurt you back any way possible. So he pretty much has to, put the pedal to the metal and basically do what he does best to basically save his family. And along the way, he gets help from the mysterious Racer X, played in the film by actor Matthew Fox, who, by the way, looks a little different than the cartoon version of Racer X. I noticed he drives the same exact car as Racer X does in the show, but in the cartoon, his outfit is the total opposite. Where in the movie here, you can see that Racer X is wearing a black suit with the white stripes for the X, but in the anime, it's totally different. Where it's the total opposite, where his suit is white and the stripes are black. So I kind of find that interesting. The movie itself, it came and it was released in 2008, I think, at the start of the summer that year. But unfortunately, it was met with mixed to negative reviews by critics, and there were quite a few reasons. And unfortunately, yes, the movie was a critical and financial flop upon its release. Well, there were a couple of reasons. One is that I think it came out at a bad time. I feel like it did. Because around that time, Iron Man and Indiana Jones Kingdom of the Crystal Skull were still tearing up the box office. And not to mention, Speed Racer came out 2 weeks before The Dark Knight was supposed to premiere. And since Speed Racer and Dark Knight both being Warner Brothers movies, you figured that Warner Brothers would put a little more effort into the promotional material for Speed Racer, which unfortunately they did not. I almost feel like they put it out as a bit of an appetizer for people waiting for The Dark Knight. Because even when I saw it in the theaters when it came out, there was a trailer for The Dark Knight that actually played before Speed Racer started. So, naturally, people wanted to go see The Dark Knight. But, honestly, I watched the film in the theater and I was totally blown away by it. This movie just oh my god, yeah, this movie just blew my mind when I first saw it. And even to this day, I still find it such an incredible, fun ride to watch. Yeah, the movie was criticized for the story, and even the overabundance of CGI visuals in the film, which, yes, I admit, the movie is nothing more but pure eye candy for the eyes, literally. Heck, I even at one point thought this movie would have been a great contender for Best Visual Effects at the Academy Awards, but unfortunately it was not, so very disappointing. But, the way I say the story was criticized, well, then again, the animated series didn't exactly have a great story either. I mean, I honestly think the movie was actually a pretty faithful adaptation compared to the anime. I mean, it's fast-paced. Not to mention, Emile Hirsch, who played Speed Racer, the casting was spot on. Because he actually looks like Speed Racer in the cartoon. He really does. Racer X, yeah, they could have picked anybody for that part. At one point, they were considering Keanu Reeves at one point to play Racer X, but no. But I will say, getting John Goodman to play Pops Racer, he fit the role so perfectly. Now, of course, they could have cast anybody to play Speed's mother, because Speed's mother only appeared in maybe a handful of episodes in the animated series. Polly Litt, the actor that played Spritle, Yeah, in some ways he kind of was annoying, but at the same time he fit the character very well. And of course, they actually used a real chimpanzee to play Chim Chim. Hey, pretty smart move. Chim Chim and Sprite will definitely play pivotal roles in the cartoon. And of course, Trixie, played by the beautiful Christina Ricci, who again was a pretty spot-on choice. So again, the casting the actors, yeah, very spot on, very, very, very spot on. So, yeah, unfortunately, the film came and went, but over time, the movie gradually had grown a huge cult following, and it got somewhat of a critical and audience reevaluation. Now it's considered one of the most underrated films of the 2000s. And even after 15 years, yeah, believe it or not, this is the 15th anniversary of Speed Racer. Honestly, this film just shows no sign of aging. I mean, it looks about as good today as it looks as amazing as when it first came out, to tell you the truth. And I don't think this is a film, I mean, even after 100 years, this movie is still going to look amazing. I mean, honestly, this film looks better than pretty much anything that's been coming out recently. I'm not afraid to admit that. And I'm not afraid to admit that this is one of my personal favorite movies because it's a feel-good film. It actually has a decent story to it that actually, is kind of parallel with the animated series. I mean, yeah, it's got a silly, but it's fast-paced and it's got one hell of a fantastic and uplifting climax. That's all I gotta say. Spoiler alert. Sorry, by the way. But sorry, but not sorry, because that's how much I love the movie. But, might as well talk about the Blu-ray real fast here. I have a couple of other things to show, but I want to talk about the Blu-ray real quick. Speed Racer, now, unfortunately, I only have the one disc in here because that's how I got it when I bought it off eBay. But, when the movie first came out to Blu-ray, there were actually 3 discs in here, trying to sweeten the deal with the home video release after the movie unfortunately flopped at the box office. There were 2 other discs in here, which I will get to momentarily, but let's talk about the video of Speed Racer. Well, honestly, there really isn't much to say. Speed Racer is phenomenal on Blu-ray. The video quality is mesmerizing. This is the kind of movie that is basically the kind of disc you want to show off to people, to show off how beautiful your TV looks. So yeah, if I could rate it higher than 5 out of 5, I would. I would probably give it a 10 out of 5. That's how amazing the video quality looks. And it's presented in 2.40x1. Yeah, beautiful quality. Well, the movie was shot in HD, and this is actually the first time the Wachowskis ever shot a movie in HD, so it's going to look amazing. Unfortunately, the audio is where the disc falls apart. It's only presented in Dolby Digital 5.1, which is very disappointing, because for a movie this beautiful looking, you would expect it to sound as good, but unfortunately, it does not. I mean, yeah, this is one of the older Warner Brothers Blu-rays where unfortunately, yeah, they didn't include any a DTS audio track, which is so disappointing, but it still sounds fairly good for what it is. I would say for the audio, out of 5 stars, I'd say maybe a 3. Yeah, and of course we also get there's subtitles, of course, and there's like 3 other audio tracks: French, Spanish, and Portuguese. And 4 subtitles here you can choose from. So I would say out of 5 stars, 3 out of 5 for the audio. As for the bonus features, well, don't expect this movie to be as feature-packed as, say, the Matrix trilogy is, because it's not. All we get are simply 3 featurettes in the making of the film. Sprite in the big leagues, toured the movie set with polylit. It's actually fun to look at. Speed Racer Supercharged, meet the drivers of the WRL, explore the film's incredible cars and unbelievable racetracks. That one is basically avoidable because it basically looks at the cars and it looks at all the racetracks that were designed for the movie, so it's kind of like a one-time view. Speed Racer Carfu Cinema, this is basically the meat and potatoes of the bonus features. It's an elaborate behind-the-scenes look at the movie itself. It runs almost half an hour in length, and it's a comprehensive look at how the movie was made. Unfortunately, there are no interviews with the Wachowskis, but there are interviews with quite a few of the people that worked on the film. but no interviews with the Wachowskis because they refused to do interviews at the time. Now it says on the back here, an exclusive bonus disc, Speed Racer Crucible Challenge, which, like I said, all I have in here is just the Blu-ray disc itself. But it's basically an interactive game you can play on the Blu-ray player. But unfortunately, you can only play it with the remote, I think. So it's basically, I'm sure kids might enjoy it, but the adults are like, nah. Just makes you rather pick up Grand Theft Auto or Need for Speed and start playing that, or even Gran Turismo. So yeah, and the third disc that's included would have been the digital copy. So yeah, when it comes to bonus features, I would say out of 5 stars, probably 2.5 at the best. But the bonus disc, yeah, it doesn't really sweeten the deal because it's again like a one-time only view or play. So I would say if you get the movie on Blu-ray, just the Blu-ray disc itself, then you're pretty much set. Overall, Speed Racer is a fun movie. If you missed out on seeing it in the theater, definitely hunt this movie down and give it a watch. It's quite an enjoyable ride. Yeah, the overabundance of visuals. Oh, and I also forgot, the movie actually has a rather lengthy runtime at 135 minutes. This is a rather lengthy movie, which could have been a contribution to why the film didn't do so well. But I strongly recommend you check this movie out. It's a lot of fun. Now, for the appetizers. Here's my replica of the Mach 5 car. It's a little dusty, but honestly, it's in pretty good shape, as you can see. Yeah, basically, it's the same car from the cartoon and also the show. But yeah, it's actually in pretty good shape. Well, I've kept it on my shelf for the longest time, so yeah, it's collected a little bit of dust. But other than that, it's in pretty good shape, believe it or not. And finally, I like the music to Speed Racer so much, I actually picked up the film score on CD here. Score was done by Michael Giacchino, who the year after he scored Speed Racer, he did the film Up for Disney and Pixar, and actually won the Academy Award for Best Original Score for that. And he went on to score the Star Trek reboots for J.J. Abrams, Star Trek in the Darkness, and Star Trek Beyond, all 3 of those. And quite a few others too. He even did a couple of films for the MCU. He scored the first Doctor Strange, I believe, and many others. And I think he also scored Jurassic World as well. So yeah, I mean, there's Christina Ricci. I don't know why they didn't show her on the back of the Blu-ray case, but yeah, again, and honestly, Michael Giacchino's score for this movie is actually not bad. It's actually pretty good. It sounds amazing. Kind of has a bit of a Danny Elfman vibe to it, but honestly, his score is pretty amazing. My honest opinion, when it comes to Go Speed Go, he actually faithfully recreates the Speed Racer theme from the cartoon show, which is amazing. And the same goes for the end song, Speed Racer. It's pretty faithful, which is amazing. I like that. Grand Ole Prix, which is the track that plays during the final race. I recommend listening to this, and also Reboot and Let Us Drink Milk. These 3 tracks alone are amazing. Amazing stuff. If you can find the film score on CD at a good price, definitely pick it up, because it accompanies the movie actually very well. So, yeah, unfortunately, like I said, the movie was a critical and financial flop upon release. It even got nominated for a Golden Razzie Award for, I forget what it got nominated for. I think it was nominated for Worst Remake, Prequel, Ripoff, or Sequel, which it lost to Indiana Jones, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, believe it or not, which I don't think was that bad of a movie either. But you be the judge. And I personally say Speed Racer is a must-see movie. Definitely. Get the biggest screen TV possible. Get a Blu-ray player. Pop it in. Get the Blu-ray, pop it in, and be ready for one heck of a wild trip. The visuals are total eye candy. The acting is not bad. The plot's actually pretty decent as it accompanies the animated series very well. And so I had to say bravo to the Wachowskis. I think they did a criminally underrated masterpiece here that I guarantee you in the years to come its cult following is going to continue to get bigger and bigger. So, until then, I simply say, go Speed Racer, go Speed Racer, go! So, this concludes the presentation. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will continue to do more videos like this in the days to come. So until then, everybody take care and be safe.